Hey, so sewers, I apologize for the delay. I have had some internet problems. I don't know what happened. I had everything set up. I was testing it, getting my lighting all situated, and then I click live and I have no internet all of a sudden. So work on it, but I think we're going to be good to go for now. And this will probably be a kind of 30-minute-ish, more or less, live stream. So it won't be too long, so thanks for tuning in. I'm super glad that you are here with me today for a live edition of Friday Sews. I don't know about you guys, but I have had a week, and happy Friday indeed, because it's been a long week. There's been a lot of stuff going on, and I'm just glad it's over. I had to go to court. I'm a lawyer, in case you didn't know that, and I actually was testifying in a case for my mom, and it was just 2 days of that, and it was just a lot of stress, a lot of drama. I'm glad that it's over. And now I can get back to sewing because I did not get as much done in the last week, 2 weeks as I had wanted, just because I knew this was coming up and had to clean house because mom was coming and all of that good stuff. So um, I am trying to be a little bit more high tech with my show this time. So I'm going to take a look at the comments. Hello, Lee. Thank you for tuning in. I appreciate it. And I'd like to, try and post some comments and see how this goes. So bear with me. We are working on this. Let me know where you are tuning in from and where you are, because that's always fun. I'd like to know where you are. And in case you didn't know, I am in Houston, Texas. I am Tony. This is So Lounge. And today I'm going to be talking about knits and getting over your fear of sewing with knit fabric. My video from this past week is 3 tips for sewing with knits, and they're actually like, kind of deep tips. So it's like overarching tips with these sub points underneath to help you sew knits better. I just never sewed with knits, and as I explained in my video, it was because my professors, one professor in particular, Dr. Rewerts, may she rest in peace, she was just like, knits are hard, and that's not part of the program, and you can't use them. And the crazy thing is, it's like it wasn't a woven fabric textile and apparel course. It was all textiles and apparel. So when you think about a professor being like, yeah, no, you can't use knit fabric because we don't teach that, it's really crazy now to like say it out loud. But at the time, we just all accepted it and went on with our lives. And my friend Jen, who was with me in the last live stream, she felt exactly the same way. Like, we had the same professor, we were both told the same thing. And we just kind of went with that. It's kind of like when you're a kid and you're told something and you just kind of accept that as a fact. And then as an adult, you look back and you're like, how did I believe that for so long? But I digress. We're talking knits today. And before I get all into that, hello, Steve Norman. Oh, from San Marcos, California. We have a San Marcos, Texas here. So thank you for joining us. I don't know if it's Steve or Norma, but Norma, welcome. If it's Steve, welcome. I don't have very many men join in on my channel, so I'm glad that you're here. And what was I saying? Okay, so I was going to kind of start with what's going on and what I've been working on. So I did get all of my Italian wool, my beautiful designer Italian wool. I did get all the edges finished, so you guys can see how neat and tidy that looks on my serger. And I did all of my pieces. This is one of the front shoulder pieces, like the front piece that would go here for my cape. And I did get that all surged and ready to go. And then I got sidetracked cleaning house because my mom was coming. So I did not actually do any sewing on that. But it did get cold again here in Texas. And I think it's going to stay this way into next week. So my plan is to have a marathon sewing session this weekend and get my whole cape put together. It's not a coat. It feels like a coat because it's such a nice wool. But get that all put together and then start sewing. So that's the plan for this weekend, and I don't really have anything else going on, so I think it's totally possible. Hello, Norma. I'm glad Steve knows how to sew. That is a great quality to have in a man. My boyfriend can sew on a button himself, so props to him and Steve for being able to sew. That's very cool. Um, when my mom came to visit, and before everything, she brought me some interesting pieces that I wanted to share with you guys. Because I I kind of saw them, I thought about them, I was like, let me see what everyone else would think to do with these. So she was down in Mexico visiting friends, and she brought me this top, which is, one of those typical kind of boxy, traditional, kind of lightweight cotton. It feels like a gauze, really, because it's extremely sheer. So I don't know that I'd actually just wear this. You can see my hand through it. Um, but the embroidery on it is really, really beautiful. And she did confirm from the seller that this embroidery was done in Mexico, and it was not a knockoff from that was made in China, which apparently is happening a lot. So if you travel, make sure that whatever local embroidery you're buying is actually made locally and not made cheaper and then outsourced. So this is one of the shirts she brought me. And then the second one is a little bit different. I'm going to stand up so you guys can see this a little bit better. So this is more of a, like, it kind of belts in. And let me turn off that banner so you guys can see the bottom. Okay, so this is what it looks like. And then it kind of belts in. So this one's a little bit more fitted. It is black linen, so it's more it's not sheer, it's not like see-through. And but the problem is I don't really wear these styles. Like, that's just not really my personal style, but I do love the embroidery. So I've been thinking about what I could do with the embroidery and kind of, do a refashion, upcycle, recycle. I don't know. I guess it'll kind of be an upcycle because I'd be taking the embroidery off of this and then putting it onto something else. And what I was thinking was doing kind of a Western style shirt that has the yoke on the top and putting this on the yoke across the back. Because look how pretty that would look as like a back yoke. And then on the reverse side, they have these little floral embroideries, which would look cool on like the front part of the yoke. And then the back would be this really magnificent design, and maybe doing some interesting stitching along the front as like a Western shirt, and to kind of just do something that I'd wear. I do wear Western shirts a lot over tank tops in the summertime. And, rodeo season is coming up here in March. So it would be cool to have that ready to go for that when we go to the rodeo. So that would be cool. Plus I love pearl snaps. So, it's an excuse to use pearl snaps. And then this one, I was kind of thinking, I did get some beautiful black linen cotton from Leo 9 a few weeks ago. And I bought it to make this dress. Let me see, there we go. It's kind of easier to see there. And this is from the Lotta Jansdotter Everyday Style book. So I bought enough to make that dress, which might look cool if you added some of this embroidery to it. Or there's this other dress that she has, which is more of a caftan look, that she had the embroidery done when she was traveling in Mexico, which also looks really cool. And that might be another cool option for this black top, because the embroidery is so detailed on it. I think that would look great on the front of it, like more of a caftan than this boxy little top, which isn't really my style. So thoughts. Let me know your thoughts. I'd love to know what you think, and if you have any other ideas, perhaps, that I have not thought of. Those were just kind of the two things that popped into my head immediately. So that's kind of what I went with. And I'm dropping stuff on the floor over here. I'm sorry. And I need to take a sip of water. So excuse me for a minute. Oh, that internet going out just really threw me for a loop, because I've been planning and preparing and getting this all ready to go. And the fact that it just suddenly went out is just, I don't know what's going on. I don't know, like it's halfway between here and my usual desk for working, and I don't know why it would go out, but enough about the internet. So, if you are just joining us or if you're watching on the replay, please say hi in the comments and let me know where you're watching from. I would love to know. And we are just getting started talking about knits and the stress of sewing with knits or the drama of sewing about knits and the fear associated with that. If you have tried sewing with knit fabric, let me know in the comments. And, I'm going to talk a little bit more about that. So, I did get my Made by Ray, the Jade top, all cut out. I did decide to print it on my home printer. I had plenty of color ink that just needs to be used, so I just decided to print it all out, tape it all together. But what I decided to do was leave all the sizes on the printout, so I don't have to keep reprinting that part. And I got some plain, like heavy tracing paper. I think it's for like drafting. It was like, for some kind of engineering kind of drafting paper. And it's a really nice weight. It's I have a piece right here. So it's see-through, which is great for, being able to just lay it on top of everything. But then it's real sturdy. It's kind of like a wrapping paper, but it's not the tissue paper. It's like a wrapping paper weight, but it's see-through. So that's very helpful. And yeah, that's what we're talking about. And that's what I've been working on. So I got it all cut out, and I decided that I was going to see how fast I could sew it, because the instructions say that it's the kind of top that you can just sew in an afternoon. I was like, well, let me test that. Let me see. And I've got this much done. So I did just start sewing it this morning. So let me stand up. Oh, let me turn off this banner again. Apologies. We are working on the technology here. So this is the purple top that I made. I made a dress out of it previously. I did make it in the extra large, and I have to finish the neckline and I have to hem it. But otherwise, I got the sleeves sewn in and it all basically put together today. So I think it took about an hour and a half so far to get to the state, which is really kind of fun and exciting. And I need to grab my other glasses. Oh, okay. Now I can see the screen better, so much easier. So I have tried some new things with this pattern, and some were in the instructions and some were not. So first off, the really great tip for sewing with knits that I did not include in my video because I had never personally used it was to use knit interfacing to stabilize the curves and the edges. So it specifically said to use tricot knit interfacing. I don't know if this is specifically tricot, but it is knit interfacing. So if you go to Joann's and you look through all the interfacings, there's going to be one that's knit interfacing. And it's going to be a little bit stretchy, and it kind of is a little bit sheer, so it looks like a net, sort of. And tricot is a specific type of knit. It's just the way that it's knitted is different from like a jersey knit. And if you like shopped at Express back in the 90s, like they had these tricot knit sweaters, and it was like, oh, so fancy. I had like, I don't know, 12 of those. But it's just a different type of knit. So that was one of the tips, was to cut strips of it. And it was really easy because it was like, just get a yard, and then you need to cut 1-inch strips that measured for the extra large. I think it was 2.5 yards. And then you needed to cut 2 pieces at 3/8 of an inch, which is a centimeter, to match the length of the facing for the neckband if you're making view B, which is what I am doing. Now, the cool thing is, hi, Erlene. Thanks for joining us from Southern California. It is cloudy here in Houston. So the cool thing about this is that because it's knit interfacing, it bends with the curve, so it's super easy to just iron in and get it into place, and it really helps stabilize. Like, I haven't stretched out the neckline yet, like, I'm super excited about that, and when I finish the sleeve, so it's actually in the sleeve, but I did finish, let me see, here we go. So it's actually inside of the sleeve in here, and then you fold it up and then do some top stitching. So you can see that. I'm not gonna move so the camera will focus. There we go. Um, it really helped it from not stretching out. So I did try it on. It is fitting. It's a little bit bigger than I'd like it, kind of through the middle part, but the bust fits perfectly and the sleeves fit. So I was happy about that. And I'm thinking that since it's got this huge band on the bottom, which is the same as on the sleeves, so you put the 1 inch on the bottom and the sleeves, it's gonna be super easy to hem as well and not, like, pull it out and have that weird ripple. If you've ever done, hemming on a knit garment, you know that there's that ripple effect if you pull the knit too much or if your stitch isn't exactly the right length or size. And so I think this is really gonna help with that. I did just sew the sleeves on, a 2.5 straight stitch because this was stretched over my free arm, to just finish it. With the hem, I'll probably do the same and hopefully have the same kind of results, so I'm excited about that. And, the other thing about this pattern was the way that it's put together. So you start off and you iron in or press in the knit interfacing into the bottom of the shirt. I'm going to flip this out so you guys can see better. Into the bottom hem of the front and the back, and then you put, if you're making view B, which is the scoop neck, you put the 3/8 of an inch along the neck edge as well. So you get that all sewn in first. Then you sew the shoulder seams, and then you put the sleeve in flat. And I've never put in a flat sleeve before. I know people have suggested like, "Oh, it's so much easier than putting in a sleeve, in the round and then having to adjust and gather." And the other knit garments that I've made that have sleeves, I made a simplicity dress that turned out well back in July. I the way that I put in the sleeve was I made the bodice, I put it on my dress form, and then I hand basted the sleeve into the armscye, and then I sewed it. That way I got everything lined up. I did the amount of stretch that I needed, and it all worked really, really well. There were no puckers. I actually put that sleeve in better than regular sleeves until I, got the hang of that with tips from grandma. So the fact that I was actually, sewing in a sleeve flat, which means if you're not familiar that I sewed the sleeve into the armscye first, and then I went back and sewed this whole underarm seam down the whole side of the shirt. And it made me a little nervous, I'm not gonna lie. I'm still a little bit hesitant with knits because they're not something I sew with super regularly. I mean, I have added them into the whole rotation. And, hey, Patricia, you are not late. We're just getting started. No, just kidding. We're just talking knits today. So if any of you who are watching now have had, kind of weird experiences with knits or good or bad, put it in the comments so we can have a little chat about it. And I am just talking about the shirt that I'm working on. This is the Made by Ray Jade pattern. One day I'll figure out how to do this right. There we go. And I've talked about it previously, and I'm actually getting the sewing done. So because I'm still hesitant about sewing knits, and because when I've previously made knit sleeves, I've basted, I decided that I was gonna baste in the sleeve flat and, make sure everything lined up. And then I would go back in and sew it for real because there's something about having to rip out a zigzag stitch that just seems to be entirely too much work. And the last time I used this fabric, I sewed with black thread, so it was a lot easier to see to rip. The thread I'm using today is almost the exact same color as the fabric, so it's hard to see. And I already kind of messed up the shoulder seams because the fabric slipped and I had to rip those out. And I was just like, oh, this is so hard with this color thread. I think you get to a point where you're just like, okay, I have to admit that I need glasses for certain things. I'm wearing these because I can't see the computer screen. I blame that on my brief stint in civil litigation where I sat and stared at medical records on a computer for almost 3 years straight and didn't go to court. So that's why I need computer glasses. And if you need computer glasses, I'm sure you understand what I mean. So I basted in the sleeve first flat and then everything lined up. The first one I did had a couple of little puckers, so I went back, snipped those basting stitches, evened them out, and then I went in and put in the zigzag stitch. I'm gonna see if you guys can see that. So you can see that I have a row of basting stitches closer to the raw edge, and then the zigzag stitch is right next to it. And it worked really well. So I was super excited about that because I was like, yes, it's working. And then when I sewed the second sleeve, it went in very quickly. I still did the basting. I did the zigzag stitch after, pressed my seams towards the sleeve, and then put in the underarm seam. And it worked very well. I was hesitant, also because I wasn't sure how it was going to fit. So, I did go try it on, doing my best to not stretch out the neckline, which I don't think I did because, this knit interfacing really helped keep that straight. We will know once I add the neckband if it did or not. But that's kind of how that went. So it's going well. I'm happy with the way it's looking. And I think that I can actually wear it next week. Like, I think I'll get it finished today, which is really exciting. And then I'll be able to make another one in a different type of stretch. I think that based on the way this one's fitting, if I use a knit that is 50% stretch or more, which would be a 4-way stretch knit, basically, I think it will fit a little bit better in the large, which is what the pattern said to adjust to. So if you did not watch my knit tip video yet, I basically talked about how because of the way the pattern is made, it has negative ease in it. And that means that the pattern measurements are going to be smaller than my physical measurements because the stretch in the fabric is going to stretch out to my actual measurements. And the cool thing about this pattern is that number one, it's made that way because a lot of commercial patterns are not. You have to just you have to figure out what the ease is and make it smaller depending on how much your fabric stretches. But with this pattern, Ray actually said if you're using fabric that is has less than a 50% stretch, you need to go up a size. So I'm making this in the extra large, whereas my normal measurement sizes would really be the large, but that's going to help me with the knit because this knit only has 20% stretch as opposed to the 50, which is what the pattern is designed for. So that's one of those things that I think the more you sew with knits, the better you get at understanding like how they work. And this is just a jersey knit, so it's just a basic, it's cotton, it's just a basic cotton jersey knit. So it's a 2-way stretch, stretches left and right, not up and down. And I think that's a good knit to start with. It's the first knit I started with. This is like the same knit from the purple dress that I made last year. And I think that that's the best way to start. Like start with a jersey knit that only has 2-way stretch, kind of play around with that, get comfortable using it, and then graduate to the 4-way stretch knit. And, I have used those, but pretty much everything else I've sewn has been in that kind of knit with the exception of the green dress that was made with the simplicity pattern. They all were that kind of 2-way stretch, jersey knit, And then I did start sewing with some lyocell, spandex type knits. Um, and I can't remember if it's spandex or lycra, so forgive me. It's the same thing. One's the brand name, one is the um, just the generic name. And I just can't remember which is which. I need to go look that up so I stop saying this wrong. But let's say spandex. So those are the super stretchy ones. And if you go and you get like, go to Joann's and go into that aisle where they've got those super stretchy spandex knits for like dance wear or, athleisure or workout wear, all that kind of stuff. Some of those can stretch almost 100% from their original stretch. So those are harder to work with because they stretch so much. Whereas, I mean, and they are four-way stretch, but a jersey is just going to be, a lower stretch. This is 20%. The green one that I used, that I showed y'all in my video, was about a 30% stretch. And then compared with the fruit stripe gum fabric that I've previously used to make a skirt, that was at a 40% stretch. So the more spandex you add to a fabric as part of the knit, the more it's going to stretch, because that's the thing about having that fiber. Anything you add spandex to is going to give it stretch. And like, they put it in jeans to give you the stretch fit for jeans. But when they add it in with a knit, it gets really, really stretchy. So if you kind of are new to this and nervous about using knits, then definitely start with a jersey and work your way up to the super stretchy spandex knits, because those are more difficult to work with just because of sizing issues. I don't think that the sewing of them is particularly difficult. I did use a bunch of them when I did some costuming a few years ago before the pandemic, and they weren't hard to actually physically sew, but they were hard in the sense of figuring out, like, okay, how do I get the fit that I want for the person I'm making it for? And with that, I just ended up draping everything and doing a lot of hand sewing and then machine sewing. So that was kind of a weird situation for using those fabrics, but it's not impossible to sew them. It's just that if you're making a pattern, you kind of want to test it out and figure out and see, you know, how is it working? What's the best type of knit to use for this pattern? And every pattern's completely different. So you kind of just have to figure it out. When I found this made by Ray Jade pattern, I did think that, oh my gosh, this is like the kind of shirt that I love wearing, that I buy. And, that I have a bunch of these from Banana Republic and Ann Taylor. Like, that's my go-to knit top store. And that's pretty much what I wear with my suits when I go to court. And they just haven't had any of the colors that I like. I really don't like shopping anymore after the pandemic. Like, I don't want to have to go drive around and look for stuff. And since I've gotten back into sewing, I really just want to make it myself in the exact color that I want. And I love purple, and purple's not in fashion right now, unfortunately. And so I just decided, hey, let me get this pattern and let me try it out, because it looks like it's just exactly the kind of pattern that I buy regularly. And I can change the sleeve length. It has a short sleeve, 3/4 length, and then, long sleeve. It has the two different necklines. It has the round neckline, and then it has more of the boat neckline, which is, higher. And it just seemed like it was going to be a very versatile pattern to help update some of my workwear, because some of my older shirts are just starting to wear out and they're looking a little faded. And I just kind of wanted something new. And so far, so good. This is the 20% stretch. So it fits well through the bust, but then it's a little bit loose through the middle tummy area, for lack of a better word, but it's not prohibitive. I mean, it will be comfortable to wear. It's not a tight fit. I think if I used a four-way stretch that's 50% or higher, and I make it in a large, it's going to fit pretty much exactly like the shirts that I buy fit. So, that's another added bonus to trying out the knits so you can start supplementing the things in your wardrobe that you wear a lot because let's face it, we all wear knits all the time. It's not like it was back in the day where, your option for knit was the polyester double knit that would smother you. Maybe not if you lived up in the northern climes, but down here in Texas when polyester double knit was the rage, my grandma was like, "Well, everybody wore it, but we were all sweating like pigs." And it's kind of one of those things where the technology has evolved with the knits, and it's actually really cool to to have all these options now and to have these really nice well-made knits. Cotton knits are fantastic. Those are some of my favorites. That's what I tend to wear most of the time. Lyocell's another good fabric. It breathes well. It's a cellulose man-made fiber that's like rayon. So rayon's made out of wood pulp. I don't remember what exactly lyocell is made out of. Some kind of pulp that then they treat and then they spin it up into yarns or mold it into yarns, kind of more like polyester. That's why it's man-made and not natural like cotton is. You also have beautiful wool knits if you live in weather where you get to wear wool more than 6 weeks of the year. Down here in Houston, we get 6 weeks if we're lucky. And thankfully, today's one of those days. It was actually nice and cold today. But they've also got some really beautiful bamboo knits. I have some of those. One of them is this gorgeous turquoise. The other is a kind of a fuchsia color. I should have pulled them out before I started, but internet difficulties. And they're really pretty too. Bamboo grows very easily. It's one of those kind of easy to replenish, but the process of making bamboo into, fiber that you can use for, making yarn is not the most eco-friendly. So while bamboo itself is eco-friendly, it doesn't need a lot of water, it grows wild, it's easy to replenish and all that good stuff. The process by which it transforms into, yarns and then fabric is not. So, just keep that in mind. I don't know if that matters a lot to you. Personally, I think having fibers that are going to disintegrate back into nature are better than polyester and the other synthetic fibers. So I tend to sew with more natural fibers, also because it's just hot here most of the time, and natural fibers tend to breathe a lot better. So I think that's been my rant for the day. And if anyone has any thoughts or comments, please let me know in the actual comment section. I would love to hear from you. And that's what I'm working on. So I think I can get this done today. And I might retrace my pattern in the large size and then see if I can get it cut out in one of my bamboo fabrics that I bought from fabric.com back in the day, just because they were really beautiful knits. I think they were having a sale on bamboo knits or something. And I just like the colors. I have 2 yards of each, so that should be enough to make this top with the 3/4 length sleeves. So that's always a good thing. And we'll see how it goes. I did buy some other knit fabrics when my Joann's was closing back in when did it close? It closed in July. So yeah, back in June and July when they were doing a lot of the closeouts of knits. I have this really cool, it's like light pink fabric, and then it has like these astrological constellations and zodiac on it, which would make a really cute top and look good with a black suit. So it's kind of one of those things that I definitely want to, make up into a top. I think I have enough. I have enough for a top for sure. I might have enough for more, but we shall see. The knit sewing saga continues, and it's just one of those things where I'm getting over that fear, and now that I'm actually doing it and taking those steps, it just is really exciting because it's like, wow, I can't believe that for so many years I was so scared of doing this. And then when I actually did it, it wasn't that bad. And I think that's how it is with a lot of things. And I think that especially with sewing, when you haven't done something before, you're like, ooh, can I do that? Yes, you can. You need to try it. That's how I feel. That's what this year it's Adventures in Sewing 2023, and I'm gonna do all kinds of fun stuff, and knits are definitely gonna be in the rotation to, try out some different patterns and, definitely I'm gonna sew the Jade pattern a few more times, just because I'd like to try it out in some different levels of stretch and then see what makes the best um, fabric or the best amount of stretch for the fit that I like in a work shirt. So, thank you all for joining me today. It has been a lot of fun, and I hope you've enjoyed this live from So Lounge on Friday Sews. Be sure to click the like button if you did, hit the notification bell so that you stay in touch and you will know when we post videos or when I post videos. Clementine and Honey do not do anything to help. And I will see you all very soon. Happy sewing.